I hear they had a good relationship, a good connection with the Burns Paiute people. And they knew that the Burns Paiute people probably came here because of its sacred nature or spiritual nature. Because I was told that this place was, the paintings were made by the people that came before, a long time ago. Plus, it's a great place to camp because it's south facing, so you get sun all day long in the wintertime, and good place to hide. Plus, you can see for miles from here, even though it's surprising. You're only up maybe 50 feet above the floodplain. I remember the Sparrow family and a group of outlaws made these caves their hideaway. We're at the Rattlesnake Rim rock art site. It's a pictograph site, which is, there are two kinds of rock art around here. Pictographs, which are paintings. And these happen to be in red color, although yellow and white and black were used in some cases. There's another kind of rock art in Harney County called petroglyphs. And they're actually where someone has taken a stone and pecked at the rock face to make a design. Yeah, rock art around here is kind of a separate thing, where part of the county has almost no pictographs and the other part of the county has almost no petroglyphs. And where we're located is kind of the dividing line near Harney Lake, where you see pictographs kind of to the north of this, at least for a ways, and then you see petroglyphs to the south. Petroglyphs and pictographs aren't normally found together, although I imagine there's probably a case or two where you see them together. But generally they're separate, which is kind of interesting. I can't really say why they're separate, but it just seems to be the phenomenon here in Harney County. And the date of them is difficult to determine. Generally, pictographs or petroglyphs that have a shape that you can't tell what it means, you can't tell what it says, you can't tell what it looks like, what they call abstract. Those abstract petroglyphs and pictographs are probably much older than pictographs and petroglyphs that are representational, which means drawings of a thing. Like on this particular one, you've got, it's hard to see, but you've got a frog or a lizard right here. You can see the body and the arms and then the legs. But then up here, it's more difficult to see because it's faded, is a 3 circles with little tick marks on them. And we really don't, that could be a calendar, that could be someone keeping track of how many times they've been here. Who knows? But the point is, generally the abstracts are older and the representational are younger. A little more about dating. We really have one really good example in the neighboring county to the west, where we have petroglyphs on a site. It's apparently an extremely beautiful site with lots of petroglyphs. But one of the panels of petroglyphs was covered up with ash from Mount Mazama, which we know basically blew up 7,600 years ago. And this petroglyph predates that because it has volcanic ash on it, on top of it. So that is probably the one best example of dating any kind of rock art. People have tried to take small samples of pigment off these pictographs and try to get a radiocarbon date. Haven't really been all that successful. People wonder, what do these mean? Now, there are probably as many experts with different explanations for what these mean as there are archaeologists. But there are people that have suggested they're graffiti, which maybe there's graffiti involved. But people have also suggested that this was a really good place to hunt and they wanted to increase their chances. So they put representations of different kinds of animals. They call it hunting magic. Other people think they may have actually been doing vision quest type activities where they would exhaust themselves by either meditating in sort of a trance, or they would take some sort of eat some sort of plant that makes you a little bit hallucinative. That's a bad word. Anyway, would induce you into a semi-trance state, and they would draw these at that time. But the bottom line is, since you can't climb into the mind of someone 5,000 years ago, we really don't know for sure when and why they were drawn. Do people actually live at rock art sites? The interesting thing is, we've been to this site. I bring tours out here every year. I have for years. And we almost don't see any evidence of occupation, which means obsidian flakes from tool making on the ground, charcoal, people using these rocks for grinding stones. And we have another site we stop on the tour also, and we've never seen any occupational debris there either. And I'm not saying that all petroglyph sites are not really habitation sites, but in reality, I think they kind of kept them a little separate because of maybe the sacred nature or the spiritual nature of the elements they were painting or pounding into the rocks. What do you do if you're out on a hike and you stumble across a rock art site? Or if you know there is one, like this one is publicly known, there's a road right to it. It's easy to get to pretty much all year. But what do you do if you're there? The one thing I would suggest is especially don't touch pictographs, because the oils and acids in your hands can affect them. That would be the major no-no if you could help it. And also, when you're looking at petroglyph sites, the ones where the rock is actually carved for the design, a lot of times they'll be not just on a face like this, they'll be on the rocks on the ground right below you. So try not to walk on them. That's a real good thing. You don't want to scratch them. And we have one site that we have bullet holes in it. It's the other site that I take the tour to, and they were using elements of one of the glyphs, which are circles, as aiming points, and that's probably not a real good thing to do either. If you want to learn more about pictographs, petroglyphs, and other archaeological topics, and historic topics as well, come to the next in-person Migratory Bird Festival, because I do a 3-hour e-tour where we sit in a classroom and we have PowerPoint, and I discuss various subjects. I usually come with 5 or 6 topics and let people pick which ones they want to hear. And it's really fun. 3 hours. Enjoy it. And don't forget, when we have the festival in person, we have for years, a 4-hour tour of this rock art site here and another one across the valley. And it's a lot of fun.